or it's good day.
I don't know what it means. That's all I can say.
And what do you know about cricket, man? It's got to be the weirdest sport I've ever seen in my life.
I know they make noise at night. That's what I know about cricket.
Thank you, Matt Blaze. Thank you, Juliana. Let's go to Frank, line 4, Jersey City, New Jersey. Frank, what's on your mind?
Yeah, thanks. Thanks so much. Do you think we can give them two sisters that spoke today at the State of the Union so the whole country could hear what they had to say today? I got so many goosebumps through that.
Really? Well, I can only tell you that, they don't get to speak during the State of the Union. Nobody else gets to speak except for the president. But I will be playing clips from that later on 3 p.m. today. Plus one that we didn't hear because we've been taking so many calls. Why, Frank, before I move on, why did you need these spots?
Because she spoke from the heart, because Grandma said,
And she basically said that Grandma says, don't bring that race crap to me when it comes to Trump. Basically, that's what she said. You know,
let the man do his job.
And done in his job.
Hurt people. That's where all the hate comes from.
Yeah, because Frank, I'm glad you said it because certain people say, you don't feel too much on the radio. I get a million messages a day, like I think on Facebook. I'm not a good soul, but they want to have a private conversation with me. They want you guys get permission from Facebook, and I say no to all of them because I just don't have the time, and how do you think that I got time to engage in a million private conversations? So what was that, Frank? You said hate. What was that?
No, hurt people.
Hurt people. Okay. All right, and I'm going to prove your exact point right now. Thank you for the call, Frank. Let's go to line 1, David Tomac. Illustration number 1. Oh, you waiting for the tyrant named Trump?
As we go.
Okay, Dave, I like you. Do you have a life?
I do.
You have a job or you retired?
I do. You on what? I do have a job.
Okay, so why do you hate Trump so much?
Look at the economy. The job market is terrible.
And what about underpaid? What about Biden?
Oh, yeah.
The tax got to stop, huh? Thank you very much, Dave, for the call here. Let's see. Let's go to Ralph.
Oh, yeah.
Ralph, you only got about 20 seconds. Go ahead.
Okay, he said hurt
We're
people.
war driving tonight.
He's here to hurt us.
We're war driving.
That's a good point, Ralph.
People, you like to hurt people on the phone. You're hurt. Very hurt.
I like it.
When you say, you sound like you're on all fours looking back. You said
I'm on all fours looking back. In honor of you, Ralph. Mom, Donnie! I'm back. Don't laugh, please. Don't encourage that behavior. I'm back at 8 p.m. Eastern. Have a great day.
77 WABC's Staten Island law firm of Anjuli and Gentili chime time is 12:59.
The Staten Island law firm of Anjuli and Gentili, helping people just like you for 40 years. Walk with confidence. Call 718-826-0005 or visit HLawNYC.com.
This is New York's Talk Radio, the crown jewel of talk radio. WNC New York, WRCR Haverstraw, 107.1.
Now we got the
News first at 59 past the hour. 77 WABC News.
we got the computers up and running.
This Thursday, February 19th. This morning, I'm Mr. Richmond. Ohio billionaire Rex Rockman has been deposed about his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. California Congressman Dave Meehan says this should not be a political February from London and Brussels coming up today.
Surprise shift. January special reservations show some officials pondering a rate hike at odds with the White House.
And the scrutiny in US courts and Europe has shown over the consequences of social media.
Oil on edge. Crude prices jump after a report suggests a week-long U.S. military campaign against Iran.
Plus, how TV shows like The Traitors are sparking a renewed interest in Murder Mystery Weekend.
That's all straight ahead on Bloomberg Daybreak Europe on ESPN Digital Radio London, Bloomberg 1130 Bloomberg 91.1 Bloomberg 92.9 Boston, Sirius XM Channel 121, and around the world on BloombergRadio.com and via Bloomberg Business App.
Yeah, when you say you got him already, you put him in the store, he doesn't want to go.
Good morning from London. I'm Caroline Jen.
And I'm Stephen Carroll in Brussels. You're listening to Daybreak Europe live on London DAB radio and around the world on Bloomberg.com and the Bloomberg Business app.
Let's start by looking at the markets.
Last year, and is now stopping all medical treatments for all youth patients.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, I gotta be quiet there, huh? Oh, you don't want to get found on the war driving path.
Hospital providing gender transition treatment for adolescents. Andrew Whitman, NBC News Radio, New York.
Several nonprofits are suing the Trump administration for removing the Pride flag from the Stonewall National Monument in Lower Manhattan earlier this month, claiming the administration violated a federal law when it took down the flag. They also claim the removal is part of the administration's attempt to erase LGBTQ+ history, and that the government has not removed other historical flags at other national monuments. New York City Mayor Zoe Mamdani's budget proposal is facing pushback. The mayor says raising property taxes.
Oh, yeah, I'm eating my world famous chicken.
If the state doesn't commit to raising taxes on corporations or implement a millionaire's tax.
If we do not fix the structural imbalance, and do not heed the calls of New Yorkers to raise taxes on the wealthy, this crisis will not disappear. It will simply return year after year, forcing harder and harsher choices each time.
It's all to close the $7 billion budget gap. The governor says she does not support a property tax hike. Full federal funding is being restored for the Gateway Tunnel project linking New Jersey and Manhattan after the Trump administration froze the funds. New York AG Letitia James announced Wednesday that the $130 million owed for the project has now been released after her office's lawsuit against the administration. The Trump administration released $30 million last week and another $77 million earlier this week. We're now learning why Lawrence Long Island man shot an arrow at a member of his own family. Nolan Layton explains.
Cops in Nassau County say it was a brother-sister feud that led a 21-year-old to shoot his sister in the face with a crossbow over the weekend.
Brother-sister rivalry. They were fighting
Students are reminded to stay off the track area. However, only when absolutely necessary to extreme emergency should members of the service enter the track area and uphold caution should be used. Beware of the third rail. Set him now faces attempted murder charges. Noah Layton.
His sister must have pissed him off so much that he shot his sister in the face with a crossbow. Could you imagine that?
Millions of people
He split her dome in half.
Before it was tested by employees. Christians are celebrating Ash Wednesday,
Temples around the world are marking the beginning of Lent. Many will go to church to have a priest smear ashes on their foreheads. The ashes symbolize mourning and penance. They can also remind Catholics of their mortality. Many Christians give up something tangible for Lent, such as liquor or a favorite food. They may also reflect on their lives and decide whether to make changes. It's all part of a conscious effort to purify themselves for Good Friday, which marks the death of Jesus Christ on the cross, and for Easter Sunday, which celebrates his resurrection. I'm Mark Nefield.
In sports, the executive director of the MLB Players Association is stepping down. Tony Clark resigned after an internal investigation revealed that he had an inappropriate relationship with his sister-in-law. The Eastern District of New York is also investigating allegations of misuse of licensing money. Clark has held the post since 2013. Your forecast overnight, a few scattered showers, some fog, low 36 degrees. Later today, mostly cloudy with occasional rain and drizzle, the high 38. And for Friday, looking at mostly cloudy skies with a few scattered showers and the high 42. Currently, we have mostly cloudy skies outside of our Midtown studios. I'm Lisa Ritchie. Remember, the news never stops at WABCRadio.com.
Tony, this other one with audition in regards to a message.
Sid and Friends in the morning. One today, I mean, big, usually on Wednesdays, but was axed yesterday. Peter King, yesterday, the rating second to the Dr. O'Reilly, and the next one is going to make some of you very unhappy, I get it. Maybe her second visit, Megyn Kelly. O'Reilly and Megyn, the Thursday edition of Sid and Friends in the morning. Listen anytime. 77WABCRadio.com and the 77 WABC app. An American original. Talk Radio 77 WABC and WABCRadio.com.
What's up, man? There was the guy that shot his sister
Is the other side of midnight.
in the face with a crossbow.
With Lionel.
He split her dome in half. Could you imagine what kind of crazy stuff she must have been yelling and arguing with him about?
Welcome to the other side of midnight, where we delve into the seamy, dark underbelly. We look underneath the bed of reality looking for dust bunnies. We spend time asking ourselves, wait a minute, why aren't they talking about this? Why? Because you don't have enough time. I don't know if you are, you probably don't have this, but I have numbers of friends of mine in the conspiratorial. I'm a member of a cult, a very serious cult, the people that I know. We talk to each other in code. So yesterday I was picking up a package and talking to someone who we share political and world views. I looked at her, I said, so, interesting times now, aren't we? She says, oh yeah. And then she leans over and says, I think somebody owes us an apology. And I said, gotcha. And I walked off, unaware that somebody's behind me listening, and they're wondering, what is this? What are they talking about?
Yeah, that's G14 classified. Well, I eat my chicken.
All of a sudden,
I'm eating my world famous chicken
of awareness of people are adapting themselves to things
with rice, onions, tomatoes, lettuce, salad. Oh, yeah.
Protect yourself
They
and
are
others.
involved.
All members of the service must wear their seatbelt when riding in a department vehicle.
I don't know, but a horned demonic figure. I knew it. Have you noticed the stuff they're selling all of a sudden on ads? Bovine colostrum. What is it? I don't know, but I'm buying it. Methylene blue. What is it? I don't know. Pink salt. There was a time when we thought copper bracelets were weird. I'm serious when I'm telling you something. There is a thirst for understanding. There is a thirst and perhaps maybe a gullibility. And what we're going to be doing tonight is, as I break this thing down into four, I think of this as a 4-act play. And the tentative titles I have are True Crime and Law, Deep State or Justice State, Culture Under Siege, and Midnight Mysteries. And under True Crime and the Law, I don't even know where to start with them. I don't even know where to start, because what I'd like to do is say, wait a minute. Did you hear this? I've always wanted to walk out on the stage of a cable news show. Pick the one you want and say, hold it. Did you hear this just now? Do you know what this means? Do you understand what this means and why this means what it means?
Let me ask you something. If you wanted to go into a culture and destroy it, what would you do? I'm serious.
To destroy a
What would you
culture.
do? The first thing I would do is I would declare Stephen A. Smith a patriot and force children to memorize his speeches. But that's me. But if I didn't have time for that, what I would do is I would go after your belief system, your faith, your traditions, your language, your culture. But if I didn't have enough time, if they said, listen, no, that takes too long. Oh, simple. I'll overrun them with crime. What do I do? Either let people go or stop trying to find them. It's that simple. We live in a world right now, my friends. Think of the world as a potential yeast infection, some big candidiasis, some monilius, some terrible fungating horror show. And as you know, there is a wonderful balance of good bacteria and bad bacteria. And when the good bacteria is overrun with the lactobacillus, for example, some ladies, I don't have to tell you this, but sometimes after you go through a regimen of antibiotics, the good bacteria is overrun and you have a nasty yeast infection. I'm sorry, it's true. And if you're not adult enough to handle this, then you shouldn't be listening to the show. That's what society. I maintain the balance. If I turn my back and allow the bad bacteria to affect the biota, the biome, you have hell to pay. And there is a fellow, by the way, his name is Zoran Mamdani. He is a virus. He is an imposter, a virus. He is somebody who came into, designed, or disguised, I should say. He's somebody who's, with this ridiculous, stupid smile. This ridiculous, he has the same kind of, that immediately fake, effusive, this richness of the word, this grin, this, like they're, the same as like Erica Kirk. It sounds great until you find out what they're really doing. So what he did was he came along and he says, here's what I'm going to do. Under budget cuts, of course he has to. You were all for budget cuts, aren't you? Don't you want to make government smaller? Well, isn't that your conservative thing in New York City? Isn't that it? I'm going to cut 5,000 NYPD office hires and proposing a cut to the department's budget to address the city's deficit. I'm going to gut your police system. How about that? That's like I'm going to come in and we're going to save money in the household, but we're going to cut antibiotics out and medicine and vitamins. We're going to make our cuts there. It is so obvious to anybody who has 2 neurons and a working synapse of what this man wants to do. And here's the best part. Do you know what people are going to be doing about this? Nothing. That's he's sitting back saying, surely they're going to stop. They're going to stop me now and stop calling me. Surely they're going to do this. So just think, that's part of this. Because that's tonight, the first reaction of, Just stop and think about it. How is this? Is there anything that this man can say where somebody comes and says, no, sorry, can't. No, not at all. Second one. One of the greatest cons is the con. I got my background. I learned a lot in professional wrestling. Told you. Right out of law school, I hooked up and teamed up with some of the best wrestling minds in the NWA, Gordon Solie, later Bobby the Brain Heenan, and I understood the business. And the business of actual wrestling in the 70s and 60s was also the con. It was the work. It was the angle. Kayfabe. That's what it was. It was the con. And there is a fellow you're going to love who for the longest time, those of us who've been screaming about Epstein for forever, have asked, what about Les Wexner? This is the man who created Epstein. What about Wexner? What about Victoria's Secret? He created it. Well, guess what? He's going to report to lawmakers and Congress and authorities that he was about that he was conned
You know what's going to happen to me? Nothing. Thank you. Bye. That's it. Nothing. Is Pam Bondi going to Pam Bondi. Oh my God. I'm sure she's a fine person, but she's not long for this.
Sorry, Sergeant.
You know. There's so many people in that administration. I'm sorry to say, and the president deserves a lot better.
At 5-1 Astor Place.
The next thing you want to see, remember, you're gonna go, huh? Here's the next one. This is the best. Do you remember years ago, my friends, when you first heard about Kurt Cobain? Now, you don't have to be a fan of grunge or any of that other. By the way, grunge is can you say Neil Young? This is just recycled Neil Young. But anyway, the flannel, the whole thing. Anyway,
Shoki Boy Elephant.
his suicide stunk from day one. And a lot of people had their eyes on the wife. You know what I mean? But it just never went anywhere. Because, as you know, we don't want to be called a conspiracy theorist. We don't want to do this. Now, for the first time, a Seattle cop and others are saying this was a homicide. This was a homicide. Now, by the way, again, remember, it's not necessary rather, for you to have any particular interest in the group of the music. That's not it. The question is, look how much you can hide in our society. Look how much you can hide. Next, one of the best trials ever that's going on is absolutely, positively so critical for you to spend some time. Mark Zuckerberg testifies in a trial accusing socials and social media platforms of addicting children. In the world of plaintiffs bar, civil liability, and the like, one of the things which people have always wanted to be very, very frightened of is the notion of product liability. This scares the hell out of people. What that means is when you deliberately introduce a product into society that you know is defective, that hurts people, that harms people, and I can have evidence, I have internal memoranda where you acknowledge it. We know those brakes aren't working. We know those pintos are blowing up. We know this helicopter is falling out of the sky. We know this, and this. But we figure it's cheaper just to sit back, keep your mouth shut, pay off the claims, than to retrofit something. When it falls into that product's liability model, it's over with. That's what they're trying to do to social media. This is huge. This is beyond huge. And you have individuals, whistleblowers, people who say, we've read the internals. This was done deliberately, knowing it would affect and seriously harm and hurt children. It's unbelievable. By the way, the court, this is very interesting, there's a judge threatening to hold anyone recording with AI glasses in contempt.
Affirmative. Don't run for that under at
Remember that Google Glass? They said, that doesn't work. I'm saying, wanna bet?
Thanks much.
That version didn't work. That was a beta test. That was to see how you would react. Remember, always give them the fake one. What do you think about this? Do a product test. See what they think. People are going to wear Google Glass all the time. What do you think we have? We live in a world right now of our own surveillance.
Charlie, you
What's the first thing
91?
people do when they're pulled over with the police? Especially anybody wearing a bonnet. What's the first thing they do? Take out their camera and they record. The camera is your friend. You want to make somebody go crazy during a roadside arrest? Give me your phone. Give me your phone. Oh no, you don't. Give me your phone. That's it's another issue. The phone and the notion of recording a recordation of everything. It is unbelievable. Next, you have no idea. You have no earthly idea how bad the Nancy Guthrie case is. This thing is going to end in a wash. They're just going to pull up stakes and go.
For me, please.
It is so sloppy. Did you hear the latest?
Why this bothers me, I have no idea. The sheriff, Nanis, is out of his mind. Pima County Sheriff, they found a blue, like a blouse. Did you see it? All of a sudden, after they scoured the area, they say, hey, what's that? It looks like a blue, like a woman's blouse. Oh, yeah, it is. Whose is it? Yes, Nancy's blouse. What is it doing on the ground? Oh, they were using it for, for the tracking dogs. Here, smell this. And then they just tossed it. there's just no phones, no nothing. They're blaming Google. Like, lady, if you don't get the subscription, it is a joke. They're now going to if anybody has seen this particular type of gun holster. I'm not even done yet. Let me just tell you, when we get done for this first installment, you are going to think, you are going to know you are living in an insane asylum. And this is crime. This deals with crime. You would think people would be most attuned to that. Not here. Not with me, Lionel, on the other side of midnight.
Other Side of Midnight with Lionel. This is the Worldwide News Network Extra. After President Trump's Truth Social account shared a video about election interference, there was a bunch of outcry and controversy because a short clip toward the end of the video showed a photoshopped Barack and Michelle Obama as primates. Republican Congressman Mike Lawler was very offended by that. Apparently, ABC New York rep said it's time for an apology, calling the imagery insensitive, offensive, and racist.
Of content should not exist in our country. I think everybody should recognize the history and really do better. I think sometimes it's just best to say, I'm sorry. And I think, given the situation, I'm glad they deleted it.
President Trump later deleted the video and said he had not seen the part containing the controversial clip. I'm James Flippin, and this is the Worldwide News Network.
77 WABC's Staten Island law firm of Angiulia and Gentili chime time is 1:22. For 40 years, the Staten Island law firm of Angiulia and Gentili has been helping people just like you. Call 718-816-0005 or visit aglawnyc.com.
Hello, this is John Katsuotis. Advertising here on WABC is just common sense. Nielsen has said that WABC is one of the leading AM stations in the country. Tell me where we can help you increase your business at reasonable rates cross country. Email me at WABCRadio.com and I will get back to you and tell you the great deal that you can get.
Oh, yeah.
Email me at
Well, we finished stuffing my mouth
New York's home for entertaining talk. Streaming now on your
with that
77 WABC.
with that chicken.
The Other Side of Midnight with Lionel.
My friend, let me just stop right there. For some reason, Kurt Cobain, you would think people would just, they would love this Kurt Cobain. By the way, he's a lefty guitar player, which I think is a bit of a problem. But this is yet again another example. Quick, offhand, when was he killed?
Let's go into the file here.
What year? Okay, can you do a little quicker next time, please? I'm thinking myself, 94. Okay? That'd be like, 32 years ago? Okay, we're getting around.
We're getting around to it now. There are people who have children. There are people who are grandparents, all right? Think about this. This is... Does anybody care? If you're not in that top tier, if your issue is not of any importance, if you're JFK, we don't care about JFK. We don't care about anything. We don't care about anything. But this is the most incredible story. The official ruling, by the way, that Kurt Cobain died by suicide April 5th, 1994 in Seattle. The death was investigated by the SPD, the Seattle Police Department, and ruled a suicide by shotgun. Most investigators and biographers, accept this conclusion. Well, however, some people believe he was murdered. And there are some people who hate the idea of anybody bringing up any type of revision of history. For example, another one, this guy, Gerald Posner, he has a book called Case Closed, where he believes that JFK was killed by Lee Harvey Oswald only. Can you believe this? He actually believes this. He wrote a book. And what happens is it sells because it's different. But you see, let me just bring up a couple of things. We'll bring this. Same thing with what? Epstein. Epstein was murdered. But this doesn't mean about the murdered. Or, to be honest, to be safe, because, okay, it was a homicide. As you know, there are 4 types of death, theoretically. Actually, 5 guys. Think of the acronym NASH, N-A-S-H. Natural, accidental, suicide, or homicide. And unexplained. So NASH, and unexplained is kind of like a no duh. In the case of Epstein, from the beginning, when I first heard the great Michael Baden say hyoid cartilage shattered, hyoid bone shattered, thyroid cartilage shattered, fractured. That's it. The end of discussion. End of discussion. You know how nobody cared. I say, what are you doing? Bill Barr looked at you. Kash Patel looked at you. Dan Bongino, your girlfriend, looked at you in the eyes and, oh, no, trust me, it's rudimentary. So the question you have to ask is, why do people not admit this? Same thing goes for UFOs or whatever. We have this group of people in our society who love to look the other way. Let me talk about this Kurt Cobain. Again, if you're a true crime person, if you think this is interesting, let me explain a few things. A private investigator hired by Courtney Love by the name of Tom Grant claimed that Cobain had such a high level of heroin in his bloodstream that he would have been physically unable to use a shotgun afterward. Toxicologists and official investigators dispute this, of course, saying tolerance levels vary greatly in heavy users. Stop right there. Never expect anybody to refute their own findings. People don't do this. Here's something you don't hear too often. I made a mistake. I was wrong. Boy, I got that one wrong. You never hear that. People don't do that. Next, how about the suicide debate? And that is in air quotes. Some people have argued that the note that was found at the scene looked more like a retirement letter from music than a suicide note. Handwriting analysts hired by advocates claimed that the lines looked different. Official investigations did not conclude forgery. Put it this way, a lot of times the point is suicide notes are not equivocal. Next, people are questioning the shotgun mechanic. Some theorists have questioned how Cobain could have positioned the shotgun. Police determined, of course, the weapon could be fired in the manner described. The gun was reportedly purchased earlier and found at the scene. And the police, of course, say, again, we are not going to refute and reverse our initial finding. Hello? How about many people have been saying about Courtney Love herself? Some believers accuse her of actually involvement, claiming that there was alleged financial motives, inconsistent public statements. There has really never been a firm belief in this. And by the way, when you go on ChatGPT or anything else, they will tell you, ChatGPT, Grok, They hate this stuff. They absolutely hate this stuff. Give you an example. Have you seen the stories of Erica Kirk trying to groom and seduce a 15-year-old? They go, that's ridiculous. Well, here are the texts, and you can read them. And I'm reading, listen to this, I'm reading on X her lines. And I can't tell you the phrases she uses for, dare I say, lady parts, references, and calling into question perhaps her own sexuality. Now follow this. I'm reading this on X, and the community notes on X refutes it, but it's on X. It refutes itself. So I'm saying, no, read this. And there are people, by the way, let me stop right there. If ever something happens to me or anybody, please put this on X. Just say, what do you think? People will investigate at levels you never thought possible. Let me give you an example. We'll get back to this Kurt Cobain. Many people are suggesting, see this Erica Kirk thing with Charlie Kirk, you have no idea. They are coming after her. She says, I was never at this place called Fort Huachuca. Don't ask me. Doesn't matter. This woman said, I don't know what you're talking about. She was doing industrials. Did you see this? She was doing industrial movies, if you will, for the CIA on EMPs. She's so spooked up, it's not even funny. I don't know what the word is. We have mobbed up. So anyway, there's a guy who has a chart who followed her flight and knows when the transponder was turned off, when Egyptian Air came in and said, who are these people? They are brilliant. And it's right there. But there are people who say, oh, no. We like her. And on cable news, of course, we don't say anything bad about her. So let me just tell you something. For those who are talking about, oh, ChatGPT is great. No. They're scraping the information from an internet, and they're very loath to buck the trend. Now, going back, let me go back to this. People have been looking at this Courtney Love forever. There's been some interesting stuff. In 1998, there was a documentary, Kurt and Courtney Amplifying the Public Suspicion by Presenting Alternative Theories. And of course, there are other people who say, and they're also going to say, by the way, that Kurt Cobain had a history of depression, prior suicide attempts, chronic heroin addiction. Let me ask you this. Have you gentlemen seen this on X? Because I'm an X. That's where I get my name. That's the best. If you want to find out, read X or Twitter. How many times have you said to people, I am not suicidal? Have you heard this? I am not suicidal. I am not depressed. If anything happens to me, it's not because this is sadly, more and more people are saying it. Remember the old days? You ever have a guy come up to you when you were a kid and says, I am deaf. Give me $5. They're going to have now business cards. I am not suicidal. If I'm found hanging, it is not what you think. More and more people are saying it. It's become this. Now, there's a fellow who's a bit daft. His name is Milo Yiannopoulos. He's a little out there, but he's viciously funny. And he writes, oh, I am suicidal. I am depressed. I am crazy. Kind of a play on words. More people are recognizing the fact that we live in a world of your version of the news and alternative version of the news. It's like, what if, before Anton von Leeuwenhoek, who said, I've got this thing called a microscope. Remember the first time somebody said, you see that glass of water? Well, it's not water. That's pond water. Look in there. What is it? Just look. What the hell are those things? That's in the water. It's called microscopic. They're there, you just can't see them. And this is where we live right now. This is the world that we live in. There is so much. What I see is this sanitized version. It's like, you've got to be kidding me. You've got to be kidding me. It's like when somebody takes The Sopranos and tries to put it on regular TV and they have Paulie Walnut saying, no flipping way. It's like, are you kidding? So just to give you an idea, just to give you, yet again, there are so many other additional theories, additional areas of investigation that I find absolutely fascinating. Speaking of that, Nancy Guthrie, FBI contacts Mexican law enforcement after new TMZ Guthrie ransom demand. You know it's bad when you're calling Mexican law enforcement. You know it's bad. They're so mobbed up and corrupt, it's not even funny. These are concepts, it's most probably a Mexican-based kidnapping scheme. Why? We don't kidnap in this country. They do it all the time. Americans are warned in Mexico City, be careful, they will kidnap you and ransom you so fast. So you're going to go to Mexico and say, listen, can you help us out with a kidnapping that you probably had something to do with? Once they stop laughing, it's again, it is bizarre. There is another issue. This is another issue. Good luck if anybody brings this up. Transgender killers are proving that we are seeing a major mental health crisis unfolding. Anybody talking about that? Sorta, kinda. And this is not meant to slam transgender.
It's gonna be 30th Avenue on unauthorized. We have
maybe some other things that are
city of Vandal stations of female and male on the road bed.
Let me give you an
I also
idea.
just got a job via Six Wire stating that there's a cell phone Nora, a male on the road
You get
bed.
a prescription, and they slap this thing, they staple this thing on the side.
This is 20 response one.
Contraindications, be careful. You know, don't drink milk, don't go outside in
Okay,
the sun.
thank you. There's
Alcohol
20,
may have
10 on the
the
sergeant on
effect.
the other room.
Well, those are kind of like the headlines. But in the old days, there were these really good product warnings that were in the box that the bottle came in. Just this regular pill bottle. You don't really
Got a
get
whole
good
bunch of
information. Something happened
whole bunch
right
of
around the time
numbers.
that
Ah,
SSRI
yeah.
became popular. This is a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor. This is a part of Zola, not Zola,
So, yeah, the
but
61 to where?
not Paxil, but what's the big antidepressant? An SSRI.
Now we're gonna go dark for about 1 minute.
What happened was they found out. Work with me on this. They found out that, and if you read the literature, one of the side effects
Thank you.
has been an increased
Three Sergeant.
instances
Three
of
Sergeant. 8188. 10-4.
murder-suicide when either coming off of this, or specifically when coming off, when
I'm gonna go dark for about 1 minute.
levels are stabilized and you stop too early. There has been, now think about it,
Wire
there has been instances
Ah,
of
yeah.
Pickup of a
committing
non-verbal
suicide
Due to covert
murder-suicide
operations.
when coming off of antidepressants, SSRI.
All right, now we can
Now,
come out of darkness.
that's ironic at all about it. You know, Prozac and Zoloft and Lexapro and Paxil, you can go through them.
approximately
Now,
10
listen to
years
me
old,
carefully.
wearing white
You
sneakers,
find that
blue
interesting
shorts,
that a person who goes
camo
on this
jacket,
medication for purposes of depression, one of the
Hispanic.
side effects, and by the way, when you read side effects of any kind of medication, they fight to move the side effects as far down as possible. You always lead off with the most prevalent, the most problematic, the most dangerous, the most frequent. So if you see a side effect, you know that that company spent millions and millions of dollars to keep that off. Okay. Isn't that interesting? So what happened was people were saying, well, you're missing the point. The reason why this may be, the reason why people who perhaps are on this medication, who might have problems with murder suicide is because they're depressed and depressed.
them coming off of an anti, kind of a
Showing a 1 under, 182 on a David line. You get a ride on a time, just for TOS,
So
no further.
whatever it was that led them to take the site med might be the problem underneath, which is a very good point. Which leads us back.
Still not in reverse to the Aegis?
How many times are we going to hear some transgender folk grabbing a gun and shooting people and killing people? And you might say, wait a minute. What can we draw from that? First, how many transgenders do you think there are? I would venture to say, not that many. So let's say, for example, 1% of the population is transgender. Committing, let's say, 30% of the murder.
That's a lot.
I'm just picking it up.
1% of the population is transgender? That's a lot. That's a lot of homosexuals.
Democratic Party is just giving it to them. They're so version. They have this passion about transgender, and they will not even come close to the idea of suggesting that it might be a mental illness in and of itself. Do you see what's going on there? So here is a question. Anybody talking about this? Nope. Now understand, let me say something right off the bat. Before we do like most people who become instantly experts, I am not a physician, psychiatrist, pharmacologist, neurologist, nothing. I know people who've had their lives saved by antidepressants. I mean saved. They could not move. They were inert. You know it. And making any kind of blanket statement about any of it. What I'm telling you is these are facts, these are allegations that somehow never seem to make it onto the news. We are also we are in a world right now where people are under so much medication because of the biggest thing, anxiety. I've got anxiety. I'll take some edibles. I'll take things because you don't understand it. And by the way, if you're in a particular family where going to shrinks and the like is what you normally do, if you're raised in this, like some people are raised into, running on the beach, or whatever it is, just depending upon your lifestyle. If your mother and father and sister and brother-in-law, if everybody's going to a shrink and everybody's doing it, you're not going to think anything about it. If you go to a shrink and you say, listen, do me a favor, you got to help me. Can you help me? Can you prescribe something not on a prescription pad, but perhaps talk therapy? And they'll look at you like, what are you kidding me? Especially. And again, I'm not in any way trying to broad brush people's lives. God bless them. I just gave you about, I don't know how many different examples of things that are not going to be powerful. But why do you think that is? Lou on Long Island. Lou, you're on the other side of midnight with Lionel.
Yes, good morning, Lionel. I went through a rough patch in my life, as always many people do. And I was taking a crack, so I believe the name was, for about a month, 6 weeks. Because it takes a while before it kicks in. And I felt like a zombie. And my co-workers just looked at me like, Lou, this isn't you. What's happening? I'm pretty much an animated person. My feelings come out. And they just looked at me like,
did you try to change the medication or get off the medication? Did you?
Like I say, a month to 6 weeks.
How was your depression? How was the underlying problems you had prior to that?
Well, it was, let me say, legal anxiety of losing my job, my house, facing 6 months of prison. That'll do it. Anxiety. That'll give you anxiety. So, of course, the doc said, sure, you have anxiety. And then I'd rather deal with the anxiety.
Well, let me explain something,
rather
Dan, and I
than
appreciate
being the
it.
zombie that I
Well,
was.
I appreciate that, and again, what some people might say is it was the wrong medication. It was perhaps incorrectly prescribed. Again, have you ever known, there are more people right now listening who say, oh, no, that saved my life. I'm able to go to work.
You don't know Ocean where?
When people talk about clinical depression, the idea of anhedonia. Anhedonia is one of the symptoms. This is where nothing excites you, you seek, nothing pleases you. What you like to do, listen to music, walk in the park, drink coffee, read the paper, go to, whatever it is, whatever you like to do in your life that brings you some kind of pleasure. Imagine none of that works. Imagine feeling inert, where you can't move, you feel paralyzed, you're crying. I've seen people like that, their lives have been changed drastically. Understand
New York plate, Larry 4308. That's going to be a New York license plate, Ellen and Larry, F as in Frank. Ellen and Larry 4308 for 2017 black Honda CRV.
I know a woman who's in her 80s who suffered from such incredible heart condition that she was liberated by virtue of cannabis. Liberated. She's able to move. It's done more for her to relieve pain. So remember, blanket statements. Blankets are great to put out fires and that sort of thing, but what they do is they miss the point. What I'm trying to tell is that we need to get people who are able to critically think. We're able to think a little bit different. Just a little bit different. That's all. Here's a story. Federal prosecutors unsealed charges against 2 gang members accused of threatening to kill the child of a testifying witness in a recent murder trial. Question. Do you know how easy it is to wipe out a gang? Let me try this again. Remember when we had MS-13? Remember Long Island? No. Or Westchester, I forget what.
Long Island, isolate areas specifically.
Right? Look at that. See, you would know this. It's demented. You don't know what time it is or where you are, but when it comes to weird crime statistics, Evilfrenia? Yes. Garden City. What? Anyway, it's incredible. Now, if I said to you, excuse me, can I help? Yes. Can I go after MS-13? Yes. Well, I tell you what, first of all, you know when you went to go after the mob, the Italian mob, they would have cameras in the Ravenite, and they would take pictures of it, and they would basically, this guy flips, and okay, terrific. I'd like to go over it, rather, because the reason for that was important. You had to figure out who exactly was in RCN and organized crime and the mob and all that. Okay. I like to go after the people. Number one, don't speak English, are from certain places, all hang around together. You got to have the numbers that have MS-13 tattooed at their forehead. Now, I can round them up and use racketeering them to go after them, then you're not leveling them. Why are gangs still a problem? Why? Let me ask you. Years ago, I'll never forget, a fellow I knew, and he said, and he might or might not have been a member of a certain fraternal criminal organization. Don't know. I couldn't swear to it, but we all had our suspicions. And he said, if they wanted to get us, it'd be very, very simple. Everybody's walking around, everybody's telling you, everybody knows who is in the secret society. You can go to certain parts of New York and they will tell you, this guy, they're all a member. This one's made, this one's not. How do you know that? They tell them. Or they go online, or they have a podcast. I mean, say Professional Wrestling with Jay Peg. Okay. But for some reason, they haven't stopped. The same thing goes for outlaw motorcyclists. Remember, they're still there. People forget about the pagans and the outlaws and this and the Hells Angels. Whether they are or aren't, the point is, they've never been shown. Chinese triads, Albanian groups, Russian mobs, they're not stopped. Nobody's stopped. If you wanted to completely, paralyze it, you could do it if you wanted to. I suggest one of the reasons why people do it is because you don't make there's no front page cover. But here's what this fellow said. He says, they want us to maintain our circuits, our channels, our networks, our connections,
our families, our divisions. They want to keep our circulatory system. And he said to me, they want to put their blood in our veins. They want to use our system, our people. If they wanted to wipe us out, they could, but they don't want to. The federal government's never wanted to do it. Never. It's the most ridiculous thing in the world. There aren't that many people. I'm sorry. If you were really interested in wiping out whatever the particular sect is, well, the same thing goes with the notions of gangs. We talk a good game, but we don't do anything about it. It's almost as though you cannot get rid of everything. Give me an example. Do you think that exterminators, remember every now and then we go through this bed bug thing? Remember when they bring out the beagle and you see the beagle sometimes? They had them here for a while. One time overnight in New York, everybody had bed bugs. And I said, you know, I said, we don't know where this is coming from. Where are all these bed bugs coming from? And you know what I said? From the people who put out the bed bugs. They're spreading. If I walked into a hotel and I put a couple of bed bugs in the duct system and let them take off, good luck. This is Cymex lectularia. These are hematophagic little parasites. They're the most prolific. Why would I ever want to get rid of the thing you're paying me to get rid of? So understand something, whether it's Kurt Cobain, whether it's whatever. Our system of justice, understand that if they ever get rid of crime, they're out of a job. Not to mention, I think people like crime. I think people love to complain because it never ceases to amaze me. They sit back and they do absolutely nothing.
The Other Side of Midnight with Lionel. Be impeccably dressed with a Bulova Frank Sinatra timepiece on your wrist, incorporating vintage designs with the iconic elements of the legendary performer. Mr. Sinatra's classic fedora and his signature are some of the standout details. The collection pays tribute to Bulova and Mr. Sinatra's relationship dating back to 1950s. Frank Sinatra wore Bulova watches throughout his life. They sponsored the Frank Sinatra Show. Today, Bulova honors Mr. S with watches named after some of his most beloved songs: Summer Wind, Young at Heart, Fly Me to the Moon. These timepieces come in both self-winding, automatic, or quartz movements, beautifully presented in special edition packaging inspired by a record player. Bulova Frank Sinatra watches have a classic elegance like Mr. Sinatra himself. The full collection is available at Macy's and Macy's.com. Frank Sinatra's music and styling transcends generations. A Bulova watch is the perfect gift for someone you want to impress, or just to say, I love you. Maybe you deserve a great watch yourself. Bulova really does make a fabulous gift. Go to Macy's for the full assortment of gorgeous Bulova Frank Sinatra.
When you enter a place of business, you're owed a legal duty. That the place of business is safe for you to shop in. I'm John Morgan of Morgan & Morgan. If you suffered an injury at a place of business, our duty is to protect you after that harm. Morgan & Morgan, for the people.com.
The views and opinions expressed by the individual hosts and their guests do not necessarily reflect the policies or positions of WABC Radio, its management, or its sponsors.
Point out some interesting things.
It's timeless. What's that sound? What the heck is going on in our country? That's a big story.
The problem is, it doesn't matter.
What did you say?
A lot of very staunch critics on the other side.
Ongoing allegations about corruption. We've probably never seen anything like it. They need to be held accountable. What's that sound?
The Other Side of Midnight with Lionel.
Here we go. Oh, is this? Yep. You know what? That sounds good. So I thought this must be a parody. I'll take the long intro. It's okay. We got plenty of time. What is this song? Are you word to go away? Tell me I don't know.
Dave Grohl, remember Dave Grohl with his wife? Remember when he had the extra family? Whatever happened with that? You know what that is? And not money, dicks. One of my favorite jokes. Oh, they took it to the air. Let's go. The old lady made out like a bandit. Oh, really? Extra family? Okay, very good. Now, again, this is one of those things where you say it, and then somebody one day will say, why don't we look into this Kurt Cobain thing? Just for the sake of it. Because remember, we're supposed to be this group of people who love true crime. I was one time at some radio, I don't know, convention. Have you ever been to one of those before? Oh, dear. Dear. That is, I don't know what's scary. The scariest convention I've ever been to in my life is a knife collector. That is, have you ever been to one of those? Trust me, gun shows are nothing. But maybe radio. But they said, here we are, this is F1 Podcast, it's true crime. I said, this is the biggest joke in the world. Because the last thing anybody in this country wants to figure out is how to solve a crime. Danielle's calling in Brooklyn. Danielle, you're on the other side of midnight with Lionel.
Hi, Lionel. In regards to the purpose of just like making a case about it now, after all these years, what is it? He died April 15th, 1994. It's 20-something years later. It makes no, me and my friends in high school figured that out, that he was murdered, because everything from there was no fingerprints on the gun, there was no they found no fingerprints on other things. You can't kill yourself and not have fingerprints on the gun. And you're he used his toe. Your toe still has a fingerprint. And then the amount of heroin, even though he was a chronic heroin user, he had a tolerance. They definitely gave him a hot shot, and then they blew his brains out. And I honestly believe it was quite well. Everybody, we all
now hang on a second. Why do you believe it, sir? You might have suspicions. You might say, you know what, I want. By the way, this is 32 years ago.
Yeah,
you might have suspicions. It might be something similar almost to when John Belushi got that hot shot from whatever her name was, that woman everybody knew.
His goodbye, his supposed suicide letter, he wanted to leave the rock.
That's exactly why.
He didn't want to deal with that. So
let me ask you a question. As we're running out of time, why don't you think anyone cares about it? Why isn't Rolling Stone magazine? Why isn't Dave Grohl? Why do you and I have to bring this up now? Why? Or this new move to open it up?
Because people don't care anymore. And the thing is that Kurt Cobain, he was the face of grunge. He was the face of all 90s rock music. I still listen to that music to this day. I can't listen to any of the new rock. Anything from 2000 and younger,
wow.
I'm all about. But he was the face of grunge, and the fact that they made it out to be a suicide when it was an actual murder, it just goes to show that people who have money can do whatever they want. They can buy whatever they want. They can set anything up. The cops in Washington where he died, it was a small town. It wasn't they could have totally been paid off, and they had money, and with the whole SSRI thing, that last caller that you just had, I wanted to touch on that because he's right. I've been on every you name it, I've been on it as antidepressant, SSRI, and it makes you, for the first couple of weeks, it literally makes you a zombie.
But you know what though? Again, I'm not in any way. Okay, I'm not in any. I'm sorry because the time's cutting up at the top of the hour. I'm not in any way trying to tell you that's not true. I just want, if I could have the number of people to say, excuse me, that saved my life, they are underrepresented. Now, coming up, I'll explain something to you. There's something which you talk about SSRI. How about something called the SES? Have you heard about that? We're going to talk about deep state. We're going to be talking about this notion of deep state. What is the SES? This is one of the biggest examples of deep state infiltration, a lattice work of just the worst bureaucratic circuitry in government today. SES.
Don't even think about going anymore. I bet you've never heard of it.
77 WABC's Staten Island law firm of Anjuli and Gentili John Time is 1:59.
The Staten Island law firm of Anjuli and Gentili, helping people just like you for 40 years. Work with confidence. Call 718-816-0005 or visit aglawnyc.com.
This is New York's talk leader, the crown jewel of talk radio. WABC New York, WRCR Haverstraw, 107.1 WLIR Hampton Bays. News first at 59 past the hour. 77 WABC News starts now.
Clouds and scattered showers on this Thursday, February 19th. Good morning, I'm Lisa Ritchie. U.S. and Iranian officials say some progress was made during the latest round of indirect talks in Geneva. But Nick Harper reports few details have so far been released.
The U.S. wants Iran to make a deal regarding its nuclear program, which Tehran maintains is for peaceful purposes, with President Donald Trump threatening military action against the country if it doesn't make a deal. It's unclear when the next round of discussions will take place.
Iran's foreign minister tells state media there is still work to be done, but the two sides came to an understanding on a set of guiding principles. Investigators are hoping Nancy Guthrie's pacemaker will provide some clues about her disappearance as the search for the 84-year-old mother of Today Show host Savannah Guthrie continues in southern Arizona.
The pacemaker company from day one we've been involved with, and they've been very cooperative with us. Today, as we speak, we're still working with them.
Pima County Sheriff Chris Nanos says the pacemaker disconnected from a monitoring app on Guthrie's cell phone the morning that she was reported missing. Authorities say they're using a signal sniffer to try to ping the pacemaker. New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani is reversing course on one of his policy decisions. James Flippin reports.
Mayor Mamdani is reportedly bringing back homeless encampment sweeps, something that was done under Mayor Eric Adams, but then stopped under Mamdani on day one of his administration. As following just under 20 deaths related to cold weather, Mamdani was criticized for that policy, ending the encampment sweeps. City Hall sources telling the New York Post the priority now is to have outreach workers try to connect homeless people living in the camps to city services before the camps are taken apart. James Flippin for 77 WABC News.
New York City is moving closer to a rent freeze with Mayor Mamdani's appointing 6 new members to the Rent Guidelines Board.
I continue to believe that this city's more than 2 million rent-stabilized tenants deserve a rent freeze. We cannot respond to a crisis by simply rotating who suffers from it.
Mamdani promised a rent freeze while campaigning for mayor last year. This reshuffling of the Rent Guidelines Board comes as Mamdani threatens a 9.5% property tax to help close a $5 billion budget gap. Work is underway for a new affordable housing unit in East Harlem. Mayor Zohran Mamdani was on hand for the groundbreaking of Kimball Terrace on East 119th Street that will have 341 new affordable homes for low-income households. Mamdani says this will be the first of many similar housing units in the city as part of his goal to create a more affordable New York. Elsewhere, over 330 new housing units are on the way to Atlantic City after the Casino Reinvestment Development Authority approved 3 projects on Tuesday. Levon Putney has that story.
They include one to finally fill a big old vacant lot in the Caspian Point neighborhood with 180 apartments in a 4-building complex. That 2.5 acres will be redeveloped by Kushner Companies, owned by the family of President Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner. And not far away in the South Inlet area, a Pennsylvania developer is buying another housing project, 152 townhomes. That'll be built in the South Inlet. And the third project will turn an old vacant firehouse on Atlantic Avenue into a mixed-use space with units for both housing and business. I'm Levon Putney.
People who grab a cup of coffee on the go, listen up. A registered dietitian is emphasizing the importance of eating breakfast. Michael Kastner reports.
Dr. Teresa Uri with the Cleveland Clinic says folks should eat within 2 hours of waking up, or else it may be hard to concentrate, and it could lead to overeating later in the day. Uri recommends eating a breakfast that includes protein, fiber, and heart-healthy fats. She advises limiting sugary cereals and pastries as the first meal of the day. I'm Michael Kastner.
In sports, the Mets are being careful with several ailing players on their roster. Manager Carlos Mendoza said on Tuesday that Francisco Alvarez, Luis Robert Jr., Jorge Polanco, and Brett Beatty will miss early spring training games due to injuries. Your forecast: overnight, scattered showers below 36 degrees. Later today, mostly cloudy, a little occasional rain and drizzle with a high of 38. Friday looks mostly cloudy with showers and the high 42 degrees. Mostly cloudy skies outside of our Midtown studios right now. I'm Lisa Ritchie. Remember, the news never stops at WABCRadio.com.
Coming up at 5 a.m. on the 77 WABC News Hour with Noah Lane.
It's great the snow is melting, but what's left behind downright
Everybody's flipping, it's disgusting, the poop, the pee. I was thinking a lot of dog food, garbage.
That story and more at 5.
77 WABC News Hour. Weekday mornings at 5. Before Sid and Friends in the morning. 77 WABC. Entertaining and informative talk for New York. Streaming now on your smart speakers. Play 77 WABC. This is The Other Side of Midnight. They're running a strange program, y'all, with Lionel.
Audio Lionel with you. Hour number 2 of the Sting of Ours. The Sting of Ours is called The Other Side of Midnight, a 4-act play every night as we deeply digest and divest and plumb the depths of, well, parts of the world, parts of our society that you're not going to see on cable news. Our first hour, we talked about true crime and law. Now I want to get into deep state or just the state. Deep state, again, I mentioned this phrase. Deep state is a word that I think is oftentimes confused for what I prefer is a thing called the shadow government. You know and I know that what Washington presents to us is like a Potemkin village, like a backdrop. It seems like it's like a movie set. This is where governance is. This is what runs the show. But when you talk about this group of people who represent this bureaucratic undergirding, who are these people? Well, let me introduce you to something you may or may not have known. Have you ever heard about the SES, the Senior Executive Service? This was established by the Civil Service Reform Act of 1978, which was signed into law by President Carter. It went into effect in 1979. It was created to act as a bridge, theoretically, between top presidential appointees and the rest of the federal civil service. It was designed to improve efficiency, productivity, and you know that is a lie. The purpose, of course, is to create a third service, separate from competitive and accepted services, comprising high-level managers with, in some cases, greater flexibility in hiring and compensation. It aims to improve the professionalism of federal management following the Watergate scandal and the growth of Great Society programs. Translation, if you want to make sure it is the development and the cemented reality of a deep state, a permanent, almost as permanent government that stays in power no matter what. When Trump first came out, he dressed all himself
He's going to sign an executive order, basically eliminating just thousands of positions. And that would have been a tremendous improvement. That, of course, would revive critics of this. Talk about a deep state. Critics of this. Sometimes you're from the SES says the board of directors of or shadow bureaucracy. They all argue, I think, and they should be listened to. They argue that it acts as a wall between political appointees and the rest of the bureaucracy. What it does is it potentially thwarts agendas of elected leaders. It cements this separate, permanent power source. The bureaucrats in Pentagon, State Department, etc. Now, think what it does. A number of things. First, the problem with the SES is there's insulation from electoral accountability. The problem with this is that SES officials, again, this is senior executive service. The critics of this argue that these people hold immense operational authority across federal agencies, yet they're not elected and are almost impossible to remove. Creates, as you can understand, a very serious concern about the continuity of policy dependent on what should be voter-driven change, but it's not. They don't care whether you vote for them or not. Then there's bureaucratic entrenchment. Because these SES members often rotate within federal leadership roles, detractors say a closed professional class can emerge. And this reinforces internal norms. This is the permanent creation of, if you will, the shadow government or the deep state. Then you have performance evaluation challenges. The SEA